EA. Sports, it's in the game. Sorry, it's hard not to say the whole thing, you understand. It's not too much of a hyperbole to say that EA is probably the most hated video game company, much less publisher, on the entire planet. They were one of the first companies to really jump the shark with microtransactions, stuffing loot boxes and pay-to-win mechanics into wildly popular titles and receiving plenty of heat for it. They've notoriously taken amazing developers and IPs and absolutely nuked them, leading to the studios either crumbling to dust or losing all the respect they'd garnered over the years, and they're one of the poster children for annual game releases that change almost nothing from year to year and suck the money dry from people who feel like they're falling behind if they miss out on something that can often wind up being a step backwards, if anything. Saying anything good about EA in the gaming community is basically equivalent to you volunteering to be executed via blunt guillotine, so I guess call me nearly headless Nick, cause I'm about to commit gamer suicide. In 2016, EA launched a program called EA Originals, something which they claimed was born out of the desire to give a platform to smaller creators with interesting ideas, which was evident by the first title that appeared under this moniker, Unravel, a cute puzzle platformer game about a little yarn dude. A game that looked fun for fans of indie titles, but obviously had nowhere near the mainstream appeal of most of EA's work. And it kind of proved to people that EA Originals was what it claimed to be. EA kept that image afloat with their program's next title, the first one to come out after the actual public announcement of Originals. The game was called Faye, and it was another game that clearly wasn't a cash cow, but was given much more of a spotlight than it would have gotten if it was self-published. While these games kind of laid the foundation of what EA Originals would be, it was the next game that started its ascent while also giving it a voice that would take the indie world by storm. A Way Out was a good game, not incredible, not a generation-defining title, but it was good, and more importantly, it gave us a game that was clearly designed to be co-op. It wasn't just a game that could be easily tweaked to make it single-player, making the co-op feel less natural. It revolved fully around its identity as a co-op game, and that was really exciting to a lot of people. Even more important than that, though, was the man responsible for this game's vision, Josef Fares, who, with his eccentric and energetic and cavalier attitude, quickly became a household name to anyone who followed the video games industry somewhat closely. It was his excitement and outwardness and unbridled passion for what he was doing that made so many people instantly love the guy and wish him success. He was a voice for the people at every conference that he was at. He didn't care if he was offending anyone or cussing out the Oscars during a live event. He was just a creator who loved what he was doing, and that love was showcased in A Way Out. It helps too that the second big Josef Fares project, It Takes Two, is in the discussion for the best game of this whole year, even with competition like Returnal, Ratchet & Clank, Deathloop, and Kena. I describe It Takes Two as the most uncensored version of a studio's vision. It felt like every single thing that popped into Hazelight's and Josef Fares' heads had made it into this game, which is pretty incredible when you remember the fact that that game was also published by none other than EA, who are known for how often they meddle with their studio's visions. I think Josef Fares is the best thing that could have happened to EA Originals. He was like the antithesis of the rest of the company, and at this point he's kind of the face of co-op games, which at a certain time felt like they were dying out a little. His games are unique and they're good if not great, and in turn that helps draw nothing but positive attention to EA Originals. Despite creating probably the two most well-known games in the current catalog, Josef Fares is not where this program begins and ends. Obviously I talked about Unravel, and that and Unravel 2 have great reviews across the board. Users seem to love Sea of Solitude. Knockout City is another unique game that also has great reviews, and Lost in Random is a title that really captivated me with its world. In fact, the only game that competes with It Takes Two's creativity and inventiveness this year is Lost in Random, with its characters and universe and its combat system, which combines like 4 different genres, meaning EA has published the 2 most unique games of all of 2021. Don't get me wrong, Deathloop is also unique, but it's also kind of one big unique idea, whereas these 2 games, it feels like the developers had 100 ideas they wanted to cram in there, and they managed to execute 101 of them. And that proves that not only were the developers given full autonomy over the project, but they also felt like they could take risks since they were receiving a level of funding that most independent games just don't. And that's a very particular balance that would probably be the envy of most dev teams out there. Perhaps the most un-EA move that's tied to Originals, though, one that people were positively shocked that they would be okay with, is the Friend Pass, which was present in both It Takes Two and A Way Out. Basically, since these were co-op games, if you wanted to play them, you needed to convince somebody else to play them with you. And if you didn't live in the same place, that means that both of you needed to be willing to buy the game in order for either of you to enjoy it. That seems kind of annoying, but it's also reasonable considering it was a co-op game. But then Hazelight went the extra mile here and said, you know what, don't worry about it. If you buy the game, you automatically get a friend pass which you can share with any one person so that they can also get a free copy of the game. Basically, from release, this game was buy one get one free, eliminating that barrier entirely and making it as easy as possible for people to enjoy the game, even if that meant that they were giving away a heap of copies for free. It's incredibly pro-consumer, and that always, unfortunately, raises red flags. Wait, why are you being so nice to me, evil company? What's the deal? Are you trapping our souls in copies of It Takes Two? There's gotta be some ulterior motive for doing this. But the thing is, it's not just the friend pass that's un-EA. All of EA Originals is un-EA. In fact, they're making no money on this whole thing. When a game releases, EA recoups the cost of marketing and whatever they gave in development costs, and then once the game starts making more money than that, it all goes to the studio that made the game. That means that as far as I can tell, the money that EA is making directly from this program is a whopping $0. And so, like me, you're probably thinking, alright, what's the catch here? Well, the thing is, right now, maybe nothing. Maybe there's some kind of hidden fees or a stipulation that EA owns the IPs for these games, or maybe they're using this to entice up-and-coming studios, acquire them, and then wring them out for all that they're worth. Those are all real possibilities, but also they're pure conjecture at the moment. My second thought was that maybe this was all done to save face a little bit, a ploy to get the public back on their side after their reputation continues to crumble in the eyes of the people. A means of saying, look, we're not so bad after all. But then the timing of that is weird because Originals was announced in 2016, which was before most of EA's most infamous decisions and games like the massive microtransaction fiasco of Battlefront 2, the broken, lifeless husk of a game that was Mass Effect Andromeda, or the absolute dud of all that is Anthem. EA wasn't beloved before all of this by any stretch of the imagination, but those were the games that really damaged their reputation, and they all came after the Originals announcement. Maybe it was some kind of preemptive move by EA, but that also assumes that they knew how hated they'd become, and I doubt they'd willingly take the amount of backlash that they got for those poor decisions. The catch of EA Originals remains to be seen. Perhaps it's not there and will never come, and we've just been conditioned to think that we simply can't have good things and companies will always have a sinister motive in mind. Maybe EA is trying to improve their image but in a way that isn't hurting anyone, but it's just hard not to be wary that all of this could turn for the worse at some point. Still, as it is with our current context, EA Originals is one of the better things to happen in gaming in recent memory. And with stuff like this and Unreal Engine 5 not asking you to pay any royalties for your game until it makes at least $1 million US, and then after that only taking 5% of what you make after that million, the avenues for independent developers to make great games with less negative side effects and full creative control are rapidly expanding. And while I'm praying that none of this stuff will come back to bite indie devs in their nethers, I can't help but to be really happy that more people have more ways to make what they love.